Hi, tonight I think I want to talk about safety. Um, Safety is a huge, broad, very abstract term, but in a primal sense, I think it's something that we all crave. It's why we have the homes that we do. It's why we lock our doors. It's why we take the security measures that we do. We have an in-ground instinct to try to be safe, to try to feel safe, and we take the ones that we care about, and we want them to be safe and feel safe. And I think the first thing that comes to mind when talking about safety is if there is a difference between feeling safe and being safe, and the other side of that being if you are truly in danger of something or if you are just afraid of being in danger of something. Now, one could argue that there's really no difference. If you are afraid of something, it doesn't matter if it's going to actually happen or not. The fear of it is enough to cause you to act. There are some people I know who have a genuine fear of a zombie apocalypse. I don't think there is actually going to be a zombie apocalypse, but it's not for me to tell them you're being ridiculous. It's just not going to happen. You can't just tell someone not to be afraid of something if they are. But it still calls to mind the interesting question of whether it's more important to feel safe or to be safe. One thing that I've always said, um, if you were running for a political office and the majority of your constituents feel that X, whatever X is the greatest threat to their lifestyle, but you knew for a fact that X was not in any way a threat to their lifestyle, what would be the more prudent thing to do? Would it be more prudent to appear to have a plan to fight X, even though no such plan really needs to have any solvency? Or would it be best to educate them and to say, X is not dangerous to you in any way? I'm sorry you feel that way, but these are the facts, and you would be best to remove all your fears. I don't know that that's necessarily the best way to do it, but I don't think that lying to them is really the best way to do it either. So, what's right to do here? The biggest issue that's going on right now when it comes to safety is the prevalence of rape culture. Now, I'm going to start out by saying that it's very difficult to have conversations about rape culture because a lot of people are afraid to admit that they don't know too much about it. So I'll start out by saying that I really don't know. I don't have a lot of the answers to this. I have what I feel, and I have the thoughts and feelings of the people who are closest to me, and some friends that I see on Facebook, YouTube, and I know how they feel. And when we elect a president who says some of the things that they say and do some of the things that they do and are still rewarded by giving them the high office, it makes them feel less safe. It makes them feel like someone can say this, someone can act on this, and there is no meaningful consequence. And by extension, they feel then that if a similar situation were to happen to them, if they were sexually harassed or sexually assaulted, that it would be treated as if it were nothing. Now, nobody should be raped. Nobody should be sexually assaulted. They say that rape is an even worse crime than murder because rape leaves a living victim. Nobody should experience this. And then you could say something like, well, the president elect did not rape you. He was speaking hypothetically about sexually assaulting someone else, which now brings us to the interesting question of rape culture. Is not doing something to prevent a negative action the same as condoning it? Now, there's a number of different ways we could look at this. For example, we could say, do violent video games lend more to a more violent culture overall? Are we desensitized to it to the point where you can play Grand Theft Auto and then not think about it when you see violence elsewhere? I don't know. I've played Grand Theft Auto and I've never run anybody over, so that's just my personal experience. But so you could look at the issue both ways. You could say this is a conversation that was held elsewhere, and you are in no significant danger from this person. Okay, um, but that's not the way I look at it. The way I look at it is that sexual impropriety is so accepted nowadays, and not to say that it's accepted, but to say that there's so much inaction that's taken about it, and inaction is taken about it because it's very uncomfortable. This is probably the most uncomfortable podcast I'm going to make, probably ever. I spent about an hour thinking about what I was going to say. And honestly, I don't have a lot of the answers. And as I'm talking about this, I can hear where the holes are and where the flaws are and where people are going to say, yes, but. And honestly, I welcome those conversations. Please talk to me and let's have them. But when it comes to rape culture, the reason why it feels more dangerous is because the majority of women are going to experience some form of harassment or even assault in their lives. This is not something that they should have to deal with if they don't want to. And when we say things like, this is locker room talk, this is just the way the guys talk, this is going to happen whether we do anything about it or not, this is where I think we need to take some action. Because, yes, on a nationwide or a global scale, what we talk about here on this channel, what we talk about within our friends and families, is not going to have a significant global impact. But it starts here. 20 years ago, Congress passed with great support the Defense of Marriage Amendment, which defined marriage as being male-female only. And only 20 years later, which is a short time, by civil rights standards, it was repealed. Now, gay marriage is legal here in the United States, and that's very, very fast. And I think the reason it happened so quickly is because we were able to have these conversations and to talk and to humanize and to bring it out. And it did not happen on a global scale first. It happened on the ground level first. And so the changes that we make in our households, in our friendships, in our families, these are where it starts. And when we can start small and say, this is not acceptable, when we can start small and say, this is at least not going to happen in my house, it's not going to happen in my place of work, eventually that consciousness will spread. And I hope that we can continue this conversation and talk about why this shouldn't happen, even though it seems innocuous, why this is contributing to a greater problem. So please, if you have something to say, you can respond to me by leaving a comment. You can email me directly or leave a video of your own. I'll respond to as much as possible because I feel like this is something that we need to talk about. I want my friends to feel safe. And I want them to know that sexual impropriety is something that shouldn't happen and is something that they should feel comfortable speaking out about. And if anything happened to them, hopefully, they feel like they can speak up and not feel like they're told that this is something that they should just accept. So leave me a comment, talk to me, let's keep talking about this. Until tomorrow, have a good night.